NGP 2022 outline the uses of artificial intelligence and machine learning for enhancing geospatial deliveries and finally to explore the possibilities of collaboration among stakeholders. This objective will be realized by listening to the experts in this field and answering the questions from audience. The discussions will be focused on inclusive development that can be realized through geospatial technologies in the above areas. So the duration of this panel discussion is 90 minutes. This is the venue. And we have the panelists, key delegates from the sponsors of InGARSS 2023 event include Mr. Shubham Sharma, Head of Data at Galaxeye Space, and Ms. Divya Sharma. Is she here? I think they are still around. Yeah, Divya is there, yes. So Mr. Thomas Risch, and the Head of Global Assistant and Logistic Group, Professor S. Rajagopalan, Center of Excellence in Machine Intelligence and Robotics, MINRO of IIIT-B. Yeah, good morning, sir. Mr. Varadarajan Krishna, Senior Advisor for Innovation at TAH, IIT Tirupati, and Professor T.K. Srikanth, Emphasis Cognitive Computing Center of Excellence at IIIT-B. So we have a pioneering person, Dr. Bharat Lohani, who is an academic at IIT Kanpur, and he is also an entrepreneur. And I believe he has several startups he made, and he has given a different view for the geospatial technologies. And let me invite Dr. Bharat Lohani, and so a geomatics professor at IIT Kanpur, is a prominent figure in the geospatial domain, specializing in LiDAR technology with over 25 years of experience in high-resolution remote sensing, including airborne, mobile, and terrestrial domains. He focuses on developing data capture and processing technologies. Additionally, he explores innovative applications of GIS and has played a role in promoting GeoNo India Private Limited, a company he co-founded at IIT Kanpur. And GeoNo has become a leader in LiDAR technology in the region under his guidance. Dr. Lohani emphasizes the transfer of research outputs to society through entrepreneurial activities, showcasing his commitment to practical applications. His expertise spans LiDAR technology, geospatial consulting, and a deep understanding of the Indian geospatial market. As a visionary leader, motivator, and passionate teacher, he continues to contribute to advancements in geospatial research and industry practices. I used to borrow one of his statements: bringing Lakshmi Devi and Saraswati Devi together is rather very difficult. This is what he has mentioned in one of the online talks. So, welcome you, sir, and I think he will start moderating the panel discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. And I would like to first welcome my co-panelist over here. And I will start with Shubham Sharma. Shubham, can you please join? And Shubham, as already said, he is with his head of data in Galaxeye, and he is basically a data scientist working with a lot in Python, has contributed a lot in that domain. And as we progress in this panel, we will know more about him. I would next welcome Ms. Divya Sharma. And Divya is Vice President in Satsure. And she is also a data scientist and does a lot of data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these on the remotely sensed data, and uses that for climate, agriculture, those purposes. Again, yes, we'll know more about her later. Mr. Thomas Risch, and Thomas is coming from Germany, and he's heading GALG, a company there. And he has really huge experience in terms of the aerial mapping, and has been doing this across the world, in different parts of the world. And the good thing is he is expanding his business now and has also started HALG, where my own Vishnu is actually leading that HALG in India. And he's also having his company outreach in Iran. So we have also visitors from the Iran here. And Thomas comes with a very interesting business model, as we will learn it more about it later, where he helps provide capacity to the other people to do business. So that's a very interesting model that he has. I would next like to invite Professor Rajagopalan. Professor Rajagopalan is a very known name. And for me, it's a good thing that he's PhD from IIT Kanpur. So because I am from IIT Kanpur, he's PhD from IIT Kanpur. And Professor Gopalan comes with a lot of government experience because he served in the government a lot. He was driving innovation in government schemes. And that was at a time when we were not talking of innovation. In those times, he was talking of innovation and driving that in the government. And he also founded TIDE. And TIDE, because of its very special works, also got Green Oscar at the time. So he joined IIIT Bangalore in 2008 and also became the founding director of Innovation Center at IIIT Bangalore. And currently he is honorary visiting fellow at IIIT Bangalore. Thank you for being here, sir. And next I would like to call my friend, Mr. Varadarajan Krishna. So Varadarajan is currently senior advisor to TIS, Technology Innovation Hub, at IIT Tirupati. They have got a Navavishkar Foundation, so he is senior advisor there for innovation. And he's a very interesting personality. He is a serial entrepreneur, and he has 5 successful exits, 2 IPOs, so a lot of experience he brings to this panel. And he has now very special interest in GNSS and PNT, because that is what is the mandate domain of IIT Tirupati TIS, so he is helping in there. Last, I would like to invite Professor T.K. Srikanth. Please, sir. And I would like to emphasize one point, because before we came into this room, Professor Srikanth told me, I'm a little bit away from geospatial technologies. No, you are not, sir. He works in the computer science department of IIIT Bangalore, and his area of work is e-health. So in e-health, he is working with the government, with the health departments, and he is working with a lot of data which is being churned out in the health domain right now, and how to use the algorithms in order to make sense out of those data. So very rich experience. And he also relates his works to health GIS. So this is the panel that we have today. One thing I would like to be very candid. And whenever we have a panel discussion, after any conference, any seminar, there will be a panel discussion. So I always ask this question, okay, why this panel discussion? Even today also, I ask this question to myself, why this panel discussion? Is this a customary? Is this a tradition that we must do it? Why this panel discussion? So there has to be an objective of the panel discussion. And today for me, the objective is because this conference InGARSS is a very special conference. If you look at the other conferences which happen in India, say the Geospatial World, or maybe the ISRS Symposium recently happened in Pune, or maybe INCA, or maybe many other conferences. This conference is very different from those because in this conference I find large number of young researchers, which is not in the other places. And because of the doctoral forum, because they want to present their research work, so I see a lot of energy, a lot of young energy which is present in this conference. So why this panel discussion then? Because these people who are at a formation stage in their career, they are focused in their research domain. They always have certain questions in their mind. They are looking for some answers. As they graduate from their PhDs, as they graduate from their masters, or also not only PhDs, I can also see large number of startup owners who are here. So these young people have got those questions. So my idea is, can this panel discussion provide some of the answers so that they can find direction, they can find where to go next, what is the right thing to do? Because the people who are sitting on this side here in the panel have got a lot of experience behind them. They have seen the things from grassroots, they have seen the things at the government level, they have seen the things on the entrepreneurship level, so they have got a lot of experience. So how this experience can convert into some takeaways for the audience here. So that is the idea. The other thing, yes, we as a group together in this room, can we come up with some recommendations at the end of it so that those recommendations can be given to the organizers and those can be then forwarded to the organizations in India, say DST, CSIR and others. So that is what I say the purpose of this conference. And the way we will do it, we have a theme which the organizers have decided, and I agree with that theme. And Gurutta has already circulated that to all. Very well written, a very well drafted theme. I will be engaging my co-panelists in those themes, and I will be asking them some questions. Those questions will be based on the theme, but at the same time on their background. And I will request my co-panelist to maintain the time. And I know you have a lot to talk. All of you have a lot to talk. But we have some time constraints. So for each question, please try to remain within 2 minutes. I'm not maintaining the time here. And there is no bell which I will sound at 1.5 minutes, nothing like that. But please maintain the time. And we will have multiple questions. And so we'll have more opportunities to come back to those answers. So if we start now, the very first thing that I would like to do is, though there is some introduction of the companies and the people also over here in the panel, I would still like to know about what their company, their organizations, or they are doing in the domain of geospatial. So that is the first part of it. And if they can also give some example of an interesting work which is being done by the organization, that will be good. So I will start with Galaxeye. Shubham, over here.
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, I'm Shubham. I'm working as a head of data at Galaxeye. So Galaxeye is a team of, basically it was built by a team of 5 people, namely Suyash Singh, who is CEO, and Mr. Pranit, who is the business development head, VP. And VP product is Rakshit Bhatt and Denil Chavda, CTO, and Mr. Kishan Thakkar, who is the VP of engineering. So these 5 people were a part of the Team Navavishkar Hyperloop of IIT Madras, and they represented IIT Madras at the Elon Musk competition in the US. So perhaps somewhere around 2020, they decided to come up with the concept of dual sensor-based satellite. And at that time, a lot of brainstorming was being done, how they can utilize both the sensors on the same platform. So in 2021, our company got incorporated, and now as we have progressed through the timeline, we are a team of 40 people. And we are basically focusing on getting the SAR data plus multispectral data from the same platform. So we have a satellite coming up next year in Q3 2024. So wherein we'll have an X-band VV-pol SAR along with the MSI with 7 bands going into space. So before that, what cool work we are doing right now is we have mounted the same miniature payload on the drone and got India's first drone SAR image. And is still working on the improvement of our quality of image, but still the first image, the very first impression of our image is quite good. We have got good features. So that's some of the cool work that we are doing. So our aim to grow as a company is we'll be focusing on two domains to provide data plus analytics. So basically our focus will be on providing our data for better data fusion. As in my previous talk, I had clearly mentioned that data fusion is one of the key aspects of remote sensing. So we'll be focusing on that. And secondly, firstly, we'll be an efficient data provider. Secondly, the custom-made analytics on the data. So that will also be provided by us. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Divya from Satsure, the same question to you.
Good to see all of the folks here. Has been a really great conference also, a lot of learning for me. I came into Geospatial, in fact, this year. So just to tell you a bit of background on Satsure. Satsure, the name comes from the fact that satellite insurance. It's a Sat and Sure. So it was started by founders from ex-IST, ex-ISRO, and also they've gone around the world, consulted very many space tech companies, and then came back and thought, okay, what is that one thing I want to do to make a societal impact? So this company was started for inclusivity of low-income farmers. So that was like one solution we have, which we have been building from years, and it's now getting used by major banks in India, ICICI, HDFC, Kotak, and we are trying to also expand it further. So here the idea was there is about like so much of data, especially geospatial remote sensing, and without we doing extra effort, there's so much of hardware in the space, special thanks to ESA, that all of this data has been made very sort of public to actually look at. So then the idea was, can we exploit this data and actually help see the lineage of a land parcel, how the land parcel has evolved over time, and use that information to allow a new sort of low-income farmer be eligible for a lending, right? So what happens typically, you and me have a CIBIL score, we have a presence in the system, they do not. They are new to the credit, and this is a vicious circle. They will never get the credit, right? So then the idea was being, again, technologists as well as geospatial engineers, can we now use that data? And successfully, we have actually used that data. And we have been able to at least service almost 2 million and more farmer loans, which basically we work with banks, and they get to look at the land parcel history of that particular farmer and have now very credible information to now go forward for any kind of lending decision. So things which used to take 3 weeks or upwards, now we are doing those decision making in 2 days. So in all, I just wanted to give you this example because in all, we're trying to extract that decision intelligence, which is this last mile connect. For the longest period of time, I have seen geospatial has amazing potential, but where it lacks is that last mile connect in terms of where are we solutioning it. So what we are as a company are trying to do is create a solid layer of these data products so that you have the building blocks, analysis ready products, as well as very specific agriculture and infrastructure related products. Now on top of that, we would like to solution for different industries. We've done this for non-agri as well, and as we go along during this panel, I'll give you some examples. But also, as Galaxeye, Shubham also mentioned, ultimately you have to close the loop. So we are also launching our satellite, and it will be soon coming in a year or so. We've been designing the satellite based on very specific use case which we have studied, and we have been successful in cracking them. So the idea is to, from downstream understanding the application layer, now go up in the top stream and then actually deploy the hardware which matters. So yeah, as per my background goes, I'm a very multidisciplinary person. I actually studied robotics. By graduation, I'm a robotics person. Then I picked up more of computer vision, and for the longest of the time, I was in self-driving tractors and loaders and whatnot. Also worked on many mixed reality devices, which has given me a very cross-disciplinary view of how to take solution to the market. So my passion lies, and of course the team in Satsure lies in how to productionize these solutions, which we have been sitting in the labs, right? So my time here in the conference has been all about learning this great research which has been going around and how to like extract those small tiny items to fit it so that we can productionize these things for a greater good. So that should
Great.
be.
Thank you. These are really exciting times for India. Two of them next to me, they are designing their own satellites. They're planning to launch the satellites. Absolutely great time for India. Yeah, Thomas?
Yes, hello, nice to be here. Yeah, a little bit to my background. I'm now since more than 20 years in geospatial business and started literally at the bottom, like working for many, many hours, sitting in an aircraft, doing aerial data acquisition, in many countries of the world, Australia, Central Europe, Saudi Arabia, up to Spitzbergen, close to the North Pole, Iceland, doing many interesting things, and then head over to managing larger production units, doing the image and orthophoto production, and completing the cycle by stepping into aircraft management and organizing flight operations for several aircrafts on, literally everywhere on the world. And as long I was doing this, I was working for different suppliers on the market, but very quickly it turned out this is a very tight frame, because you have always like a responsibility towards your employer, which is obviously clear and natural, but it started to become too tight for me, because in 20 years, or 15 years in those days, you develop a very big network, a lot of competence, a lot of connections, and you see the problems on the geospatial world. And for me, it was natural to build up my own company then and create a business model out of this. And the business model was to help each other, to bring supply and demand together, and to assist on very challenging projects. So I call them out-of-the-box projects are one of our specialties, and as more special, as more impossible it seems, as more interesting it is for us. And we have been very successful with this. We grew, and that led me to the decision, okay, let's look at new markets, because if you look at the geospatial industry in Europe, I would say it's pretty mature. Mature doesn't mean it finished with developing, but it means it becomes slower, it has challenges, and it becomes less flexible. And then if I look at India, for example, or Iran, I would say this is a geospatial world which is very much in motion, which has indeed challenges as well, but there's a steep learning curve ahead of you. And my personal target will be to flatten that curve. And that's why it's so important to highlight. We don't consider ourselves as a market supplier here. That's not our interest, to be frankly. It's too boring for us to just do the normal projects. But it would be really interesting to fill the gaps that are obviously there, and maybe try to do things better things that has been or has went wrong in the European market, for example. So that's our target, and we just started the journey, and I think it's a very interesting journey. I have a very good team, and let's see how that goes.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll come back more on these points. Yeah, Professor Rajagopalan.
Thank you. First disclosure, I don't work in geospatial area anymore. I started working in geospatial area in 1988, 35 years ago, with the Center for Studies in Resources Engineering in IIT Bombay, a DST project. CSRE at that time developed a complete GIS package called GRAM, Geo-Resources and Area Mapping. That was GRAM, almost similar to ArcInfo in those days. And I was involved in the development of that, but I was working in Karnataka, so we set up natural resources data management system centers in every single district in Karnataka, 21 districts in 1991, using GRAM and training at district level people to use GIS, create their maps, etc. That was my first introduction to geospatial. Then continued to work on multiple fronts like that, and was involved in the drafting of the National Spatial Data Infrastructure Act in 2000, though it got passed only in 2010. Was been with the DST on various committees. But in 1999, as an entrepreneur, I set up a GIS product company, which was a wrong decision at the time, because GIS products require tremendous amount of investment. Just to give you an example, to create a digital map, somewhat similar to Google Map. Google Map had not come at that time. For city of Bangalore, I had 45 people walking every street for 6 months. That's the kind of investment we had made, created such a detailed maps of all 6 major cities of India, and had a very simple CD in which you will find all the Google Map functionality called MapQ. Find a facility, navigation, save, email, share, all that. And we were marketing it for 499 rupees each one. So, and similarly for state governments, we had created a product for systems for them to attach their data and to make many choropleth maps and use maps effectively. And I ran that company for about 8 years and then found I just didn't have the investment required to update data in that scale. And Google as anyway came into, I worked with Google in Google India as well as Microsoft India research on their mapping projects. So exited out of that in 2008 and joined the institute. So my most recent work is the evaluation of the National Spatial Data Infrastructure, what it had done in the last 10 years starting from 2010, and where can it go in the next 5 years. So I did a report for the Government of India, that's my most recent 2021 work, looking at National Spatial Data Infrastructure. And I had some role to play in setting up of the state remote sensing application. Every state has one now, but in 1990 there were hardly any, and we started setting it up in various states. So, and also did a look at the most recent one that Department of Land Resources and Government of India wanted to give something like an Aadhaar number to every land parcel in the country. A unique identity number which is geospatially fixed. So I was looking at the way they are trying to do and what kind of standards and how interoperable that kind of data could be. So wrote a small note for the department to consider on that, which had gone up to the cabinet. So that's my thing. So I currently do not do anything on spatial, but interested in seeing what is happening around. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Varadarajan.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Professor Lohani, for this opportunity. I just want to first talk about my own personal experiences. Thereafter, I will tell you about what I've been doing presently. So, I'm a communications engineer, like most of you are, and I used to work for a few large enterprises, then became an entrepreneur, where these large companies became my clients. And then I listed this when it became about 1,500 people. It got 50 times oversubscribed at BSE. It was in 2003. And thereafter, I went on to do a few more companies like that. And with that experience, I created something called the 100 Open Startups, which is UC Berkeley. It was co-founded there with support of 40 large corporations like Intel, IBM, HP, etc. Today, we have 9,000 corporations supporting the startups and researchers and scientists. So these experiences is something I can say I'm giving back now to the ecosystem. So one of the things that I'm right now doing is with TIH, which is just for people who do not know what is TIH. It's Technology Innovation Hub. It's a structure created by the DST and the government under the PSA ministry. Works directly with the PMO. And this is 25 institutions have been identified, 18 are IITs, 3 IIITs, including IIT Bangalore, IISc, ISER in Pune. Then we have ISI, BITS Pilani, and so on, so making it 25. Under this TIH structure, each of this institution is supposed to focus on 1 or max 2 technologies. So the one that I'm presently heading is focused on PNT and GNSS applications, where we have created something very unique called the NAVIC Center for Excellence. So what is NAVIC? NAVIC stands for Navigation for Indian Constellation. So it's very similar to what you call as GPS or Galileo in Europe, or MSAS in Japan, or Baidu in China. The one that is there in India is called as NAVIC. And it comprises of 2 constellations. One is the Gagan, which is an augmented SBAS, which is improving the signal of GPS. Even the US has got a WAS. So likewise, every country which is like very advanced have their own SBAS systems. IGNOS is one in Europe. And the one that was launched by the government, IRNSS, that is the Indian Regional National Satellite System, IRNSS. So together, it's called NAVIC. So why NAVIC? It's because the government is making it mandatory to make everything which is navigation, position-based, LBS, everything to be NAVIC enabled. And there is nothing like this in the country, so we are focusing on that. So there are two main activities we do. One is called the NAVIC integration. So take, for example, drone manufacturer. They are mostly GPS enabled. So what we do is we offer the service to get it NAVIC enabled. And second thing is that the procurement from government is today saying it has to be NAVIC certified. And so whether it's military applications or whether it is even civilian applications, which government is involved as a procurement agency, that has to be NAVIC enabled. So we are providing the NAVIC certification as well. The third one is the NAVIC courses, programs and educational courses and NAVIC. So these are some of the things that we do under the TIH and IIT Tirupati. And any entrepreneur who's working on this area could contact me later. And we have a stall also down there in the basement. You could visit that to know what kind of projects we have supported. So the last thing which I want to mention before I hand it over to my colleague here is that there are a lot of research findings, that a lot of research happens, and most of them end up in shelf. And they don't make the light of the day. So the goal of the TIH is actually to enable such research findings to get commercialized and come to market. And the government is also providing grants because there is no support coming from investor community for this early stage because it's too risky. So the government takes the risk and then funds it. So these are all things, these are the activities we do in the TIH. And then the external investors can come in where the risk is remote. Then the other investors can step in and then they can fund it in the growth path. So now that's about myself and what I do, and now hand it over to my colleague. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, very exciting times for us in India because as Varadarajan, he said, the government's emphasis on the startups and their funding which is coming. So it's really the golden opportunity for all of us. Yeah, Professor Srikanth.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Lohani, and it's good to be here, and thanks to Professor Jaya also for getting me on the panel. So, yeah, as said in the beginning, I'm a computer science faculty here and work in data science also. And my main area of interest here, or what relevant here is I work, we have something called the eHealth Research Center. It's a research center focusing on leveraging technology for improving healthcare services, especially for underserved areas, and health data, managing that, tracking that, processing that, and we work with government, hospitals, and others, and increasingly trying to see how geospatial data can be used in or enhanced the work that we do. Just a small side note, I have worked in the space long back. I used to work in the geoscience area, working with building geometric models using geological, geophysical, and GIS data for oil exploration. So I have some old understanding of that, but right now the interest is pretty much all the applications that you look at when I talk about health applications that run, say in public health especially, that is the systems that the health systems that the government is rolling out. There is a big push to digitize health delivery, so automatically we're managing or collecting a lot of health data. At this point in time, the analysis of that from sort of a geospatial perspective is, I would say, very limited, and maybe that's something we can talk more as we go along. But definitely leveraging that and seeing how that can improve either the healthcare delivery or going back to research and looking at finding root causes or correlated causes of health conditions is something there's a lot of interest in India right now. There's a lot of research going on, and something we can talk about later as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, the health is an area which people say, and rightly so, that the genesis or the origin of GIS was because of a health problem which happened in England, in London, and some doctor who collected the data, he plotted the data on the map and could identify the source of the disease to a particular water tank. So
Cholera basically.
Cholera,
He
yeah,
proved that
exactly.
cholera was water contaminated, not because
Exactly. So when we do GIS, health GIS, your role is very, very important. And there will be questions on that line to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now the next theme of our discussion is something which is really hot. And whichever the domain we are talking about, it is there. That is the artificial intelligence and machine learning and its application in geospatial. So it's not only our domain, geomatics or geospatial geoinformatics, where we are talking of this. Rather, there is an upsurge in the applications of AI in every area. And the way the AI is evolving, every day we see new language models being reported, new novel architectures being reported in the literature. So the development, the evolution is really happening very fast. So in light of that, where are we now? Where we are moving forward to? What should be the right approach? So always there are some questions. It is a highly dynamic domain. Nevertheless, as of today, we have some questions, and I would like to start with Professor Srikanth only on this, because health-related work means a lot of data that you're working with. And there is also a question which people are asking, whether the doctor versus artificial intelligence, whether the doctor will be removed and the AI will take over. And a lot of work happening in AI and the predictive modeling or the diagnosis in all those things. So Professor Srikanth, where are we in the use of AI ML for the health related things? And is this the right way we are moving? That's my question.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I think it's okay, right? Yeah. So in healthcare in general, or
Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, health by definition is a very data-driven discipline. Doctors use data for everything they do. Any kind of research, any kind of new advances, any kind of programs have to leverage data. And so clearly there is a need to process that in a meaningful way. Health generates lots of data. So there's also bulk of data with different variety, non-standard, and so on. So there are hundreds or thousands of attempts going on trying to see how AI can be used. Because if you think about what a doctor is doing, at the end of the day, they're taking some set of data and their training experience, which is all data-driven, and trying to come up with predictions, prognosis, treatment plans, and so kind of thing. And the feeling is that a lot of this can be replicated by AI systems. So the promise is very high. And whether you look at, say, starting with the medical imaging and the analysis of that for diagnosis, to studying longitudinal patterns, looking at sort of geospatial type of analysis of public health data, AI is being applied everywhere. Doctors are still very cautious about it because they want validated, explainable results. The explainability is probably the biggest gap we have right now. Doctors are also very enthusiastic about using AI. They see the promise of that. In a country like India, where there's a severe shortage of medical professionals, so a lot of people who believe that technology is the only way to bridge the gap, to make accessibility and availability of healthcare really widespread, and that some form of technology has to come in, and that AI has a big role there, right? So you can pick almost any part of the healthcare delivery system, and there seems to be a role for AI there. I mean, it's like you define a technology, we can find a place to plug it in.
Yeah.
The challenges are twofold mainly. One is the data, and especially with increasing privacy requirements, getting your hands on meaningful data that you can do research. And like I said, the quality of the models or the predictions, right? How accurate is it? How repeatable is it? How explainable is it? And all those are, I think, where people are grappling with.
Yeah.
So promise is very high, a lot of work to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My next question is to Varadarajan. And because he has been working with the entrepreneurs, he's traveling across the world, participating in interesting such events. So you should be coming across the startups, entrepreneurs who are working in the deep tech domain, isn't it? So, not specific to GI or geoinformatics, what would you like to say about AI, ML, and the entrepreneurship now? What is happening, and where are we moving to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I remember just before the onset of COVID, and then COVID affected a lot of people, I noticed about 190 odd startups in healthcare. So it is very interesting. I need to mention this experience. I had a friend of mine who works with Google, and we went about, there was a program, we were evaluating these startups in healthcare, primarily talking about using historical data. Simple thing like take x-rays. So if there is someone who's got, let's say, COVID, onset of COVID, etc., and then somebody who's got just now taken an x-ray, you combine, then you kind of compare and then figure out whether this can become something which can manifest into a severe form of COVID, will it lead into life danger situations, etc. So I'm just giving an example like that, right? So like this, there were 190 odd startups where comparing existing data with what is something which is coming up new, that you're doing some diagnostics based on that. So what we found was, so this Google gentleman was with me, immediately dismissed each of the startups saying, why are you wasting time? Because it's already part of Google for AI. This is a standard solution, so he gave 12 examples, including it's a far-fetched example of turbulence, in aircraft. So you just take an image of the clouds, then you can figure out whether that particular area will have turbulence or not. And I'm just giving that example because many startups said this is their idea and this is their innovation, etc. But this is already part of Google. It's standard, it's free of cost. And so the example which I wanted to bring up is many times we try to reinvent the wheel. And especially in the deep tech area, we find this. People without doing research, they start working on developing something only to figure out later that it's already available in the market. And many times, this is something which I always tell people to leverage what is already there, build on top of it, innovate on top of something which is already there, instead of reinventing the wheel. So this is something which I wanted to share with all these upcoming entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in the room, is that do research about when you're getting into a deep tech area, because a lot of work is going on in labs which is not public yet. It's super stealth. And you need to go on to read about papers. Here I want to bring an example of a country called Korea, South Korea. I see an interesting trend, Professor Lohani, is that many of them are PhDs. And these are successful entrepreneurs. I see that trend, consistently in South Korea. They have done years of research before they come out with some innovation, whether it's healthcare or any other product in semiconductors and so on. So this is something which, for all the upcoming researchers, I want to mention, if you are planning to get onto an entrepreneurship wagon, you should pursue this. Interestingly, under the TIH, we have now a new program where the PhDs have to do 6 months entrepreneurship program. That means, your PhD is not complete. You have to do a 6 months entrepreneurship program so that you will get inputs on converting the, idea into something which is commercially viable. And then you bring it to the market. So the trend I want to mention is that I see a lot coming back to, what's called as the chat GPT, if we call it as Gen 1, 1.0, we see today the next gen has come up, 2.0, which is to instruct. So you can say the first version is like querying. The next version is more like instructing on what you want to do. And that particular app will be able to do. Just an example of create a PowerPoint presentation for my business pitch, whatever. So then, it'll be able to do it for you with the data that you make it available to it. And so that is currently what is happening in some of the startups worldwide. That is the, super stealth. Some of them working on even something advanced. So from querying, it has gone on to, creating something new. So that is what is 2.0, and that's I just
Yeah.
wanted to share with you that's what is happening in the market.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Professor Gopalan, because you have been with the government and you understand the government quite well, and the Indian government has recently put a lot of emphasis on artificial intelligence. And what do you think? Are we in the right direction?
Yes, there could be certain advantages of using AI for a very diverse country like ours. But what I would like to say is, if you take the last 30 years history here, so much of data sets that have been created, I would say at least there must be 100,000 plus S3 shape files floating around in this country, in various departments, various agencies, various places. Can we use AI ML techniques to at least to analyze this to see whether they fit into the currently adopted international standards for representation of spatial data? Because a lot of time when I start using them, I find there is lots of problem either with the definition or with the way the data has been captured and analyzed, or the resolution, or the scale, or something, and it becomes unusable despite the effort. Is it possible for us? I'll give you one small example. Survey of India uses Everest datum, Everest 1956 datum, and it uses Lombard conical LCC as its projection system, and the open series maps in digital form released by Survey of India is in these. Whereas the GPS is WGS 84 datum and UTM projection. Many places, people have not understood what could be the difference between this and have simply put on the GPS positions onto a Survey of India map and said, here are the locations of, let's say, hand pumps, or locations of post offices, or locations of whatever. GPS data only. So things like that, if you can have students and startups can say, I can use now the machine learning techniques to actually correct all of them and bring this into a interoperable, reusable data set so that we don't, as he said, don't reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. This data is already available from many agencies. So that would be one good contribution for India, because we have spent a lot of government money in creating all these data sets over the last 35 years. So at least try to bring them to. Second thing which will come is, somebody was talking to me, and I think one of your the thing is there about rain-fed farming, and especially very small farmers. Most of the India's farmers are 2 hectare and less. 80% of India farmer own 2 hectares or less. So what can AI and ML do for them? And AI and ML can do for them is also now with increasing availability of drone imagery, is it possible for us to provide on their feature phones an advisory service saying that what is likely to happen and what they should be doing? For example, if such a service was available, it would have saved lots of effort and money in this year's drought in places like Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat. So many farmers have really ruined their lives by starting to grow something which could not be grown later because of lack of something. So people who have access to drone imagery, satellite imagery, and with some kind of an AI algorithm, with simple, either an Android phone of 15,000 or 12,000 rupees or on a feature phone, can you send advisory saying, your farm is going to have this? I'll give you one simple example a student of ours did in this institute long back. Growing of silk. So it's from the worm, a silkworm is the one which spins the silk and forms a cocoon. So farmers actually buy the eggs of the silkworm from a government facility and then feed it, grow it to the level that it spins that cocoon, and then sell the cocoon for the reelers. So the whole question is it possible to tell the farmer what is the health of the eggs you are buying? Will they all give you good quality silk or not. So a student of here did some work 15 years ago in looking at the spreading the eggs on a sheet of white paper and taking an image of it and analyzing that image to say what percentage are good eggs and what percentage is not good egg. Something very simple like that. If people can take a picture with the cell phone, analyze it, and use all the AI technique to tell, the silkworm eggs you are buying now from this government facility is of this health. Yeah. Can I do that? Can I evaluate seeds? Can I evaluate? There are lots of things which you could do. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I think that's a very interesting example, and there are so many such opportunities which are available. Because all the tools in AI and others, they are available, only we need to be innovative and come up with these interesting tools which can empower people at the last person being an empower. And that is what the inclusive development is. My next question is to Thomas. And Thomas, because you are in data generation and also a lot in the data processing. So my question is very specific, that how much of your data you are processing now with AI or ML related things, and how much is still manual or semi-automatic? And do you see a change in this in coming years?
Actually, I cannot speak so much about our own data processing because we do it just on behalf of customers. But I would say processing geospatial data with the help of AI is just at the beginning. We just started looking into it and driving the process for some of our customers because either they fail to do it themselves, which is actually the case for most of them, or they simply don't have it on the radar, or they don't want to do it. And lots of them are thinking, oh, AI, this is something that will make lots of people unemployed. I look at it from the opposite. A lot of people will have much more time for different things. And so it's a very fundamental question which is currently ongoing. And I would say data processing based on AI in a geospatial aspect is just at the beginning. And it will be really interesting to see how it will develop in real, how it will cope with the different type of data, with the different challenges, with the different requests from customers and the different level of knowledge from customers. Because having AI doesn't mean it goes by itself. You still need to use it, you still need a certain understanding, and I'm a little bit afraid that most of them are not aware of that they need a certain knowledge to use AI, to get out what they want. So what happens if you use something wrong, it doesn't work, and then, it's shit. So just to simplify it, but that's actually an ongoing challenge beside all the other society and ethical aspects behind. Yeah,
I think that's a very important perspective from the industry side. On one side, we think that yes, AI, ML is there, we can do everything, but that is not the case. It can do, it is evolving with the time, a lot of work has to be done so that it really becomes an effective tool, though it is being used right now. I would like to ask Divya, because in her company, Satsure, you are working a lot with the data for the insurance. And so how much AI ML you are using, and are you happy with the quality of the output that is being generated by AI ML?
Sure, thanks for that question. And I think AI ML has given a lot of successful in-production solutions to us in different domains. Right? So it's just that, in my view, geospatial is just catching up, as Thomas also said, and it is about the right time. Because for the longest period of time, we have used very traditional ways of doing things, which works for a very specific local, hyper-local phenomena. But when you try to do it over countries, continents, and try to understand all these patterns, then we have to put the entire 30-member team to understand that. So now with introduction of AI/ML tool at this point, I think what I am and my team trying to do is to exploit this technology of different areas of geospatial. And for your question about the accuracies and stuff, so I think one thing I would say, which actually Thomas also resonated, was you can't just use it as like a scale or a tool to just throw it, right? You have to be really integrate with what data you are applying for. So there's a lot of explainability which goes into it. being very intimate with the data which goes into machinery as well as what comes out. You have to be really careful about what is it trying to learn, what are the pattern it has found, and what has been the output. So in terms of performance, yes, we have seen very good successes, especially with the technology like supervised algorithms and stuff, which has been used in industry, other industry quite a lot. So huge successes there, in fact, to a point that these are a production level quality now. So we can actually deploy and churn in millions. The thing which we are catching up, which I am also very being an optimistic, I'm very excited about, is generative AI. Because I think generative AI is the another thing which geospatial can highly, highly benefit, because geospatial data has so much knowledge in it. If there is a way to compress that knowledge and then actually route it to solve a particular problem, I think that's where the next steps lies for me and my team. But there has been a lot of successes in the earlier.
Good. Yeah. Interesting. You're leaving some research questions to the students also here, where they should pursue. So now my next question is Shubham, because they have a satellite, and in that satellite they have got multispectral SAR sensors together. So they have this issue of fusion of these two data and generating the applications products out of this. So Shubham, very specific question. We have a large number of architectures, models which are prevalent in the market today for doing any inference from the data. Is your company looking on some novel architecture in order to fuse these two data sets and derive inferences out of it?
As I said, currently our focus is mainly on developing a good co-registered data for MSI and SAR. Definitely we do have plans to work on the architectures. We already have a product in aquaculture. So it's called Product Blue, which gives insights about shrimp farming to the farmers. So currently, as of now, we are not experimenting with any kind of fusion-based architecture, because more of our focus is limited to increasing the quality of the images that we get. So the second thing is, I take AI with a word of caution, because when I deal with remote sensing data, I don't go inherently with the AI-based approaches. Because what I feel is 90% of the time what I feel in the market is that people are employing AI, deep learning based approaches without having the beforehand knowledge of the data. Because there are some problems inherently with the remote sensing data. The problem of domain adaptation, like Divya pointed out, especially in the Indian geography. You train a model at one place, it's not going to be adaptable for the second place. Second problem I feel is that of the reverse geocoding of the addresses and the geocoding of the addresses. If you try to make a system with the addresses like you have in Indian ecosystem, like addresses behind water tank in the address, ghanta ghar ke piche, that kind of addresses where their data is completely unstructured. So to deal with such kind of data and make an AI-enabled algorithm is a very big task. To understand the underlying distribution of the data is a very important task. So what I feel is inherent knowledge of the data is very, very important if I talk of SAR as well as MSI. So my word of caution to the researchers as well is don't take inherently the AI-enabled algorithms and try running them and getting the results out of it. Because my experience says that never ever you will get good accuracies unless and until you are brutally experimenting with the architectures. So if I say that I have to do ship detection in SAR, then first go ahead with the CFAR filters, get those objects detected. Then probably if you want to study other features, then go ahead with the AI. So AI can help you a lot, but in a very structured way. Like I had earlier mentioned, we will use generative AI. So a very good training data set can be given by us. So the problem of spatio-temporal issues with the co-registered data are always happening from the last decade. So it's an attempt by us to provide you a co-registered data which can help you in making a good training data and apply your models onto it. But still, it's still in the development phase. And I strongly suggest that better getting the know-how of what data you are using at backend. Now first get the knowledge of the image processing algorithms that go behind the filters. So that's really important to implement.
Yeah, very interesting point. And as it emerged from the speakers, we really cannot use this blindly, considering it as a black box. And then the other thing about the domain adaptation, because most of the training data sets which are available right now, they are available from elsewhere. I can't train my model and use that model for Indian conditions because my conditions are different. So in this case, I would like to do a little self-promotion also, if I'm permitted. So self-promotion is, in IIT Kanpur, we have developed a very exhaustive benchmark data set of the point cloud, LiDAR point cloud, and it is annotated data set where we have got the data files, and in those data files, there are up to 65 number of classes which are annotated. Also, individual instances are also available there. So this is available as ladaverse.com. So this is available for the researchers in India. They can download and use this data set. What we will do, because we are running short of the time, and I will go to one more interesting theme which is there, and that is on the collaboration. One more thing, the young people over here in this room should be thinking that it's only the panel members who are talking. When will our turn? Mera number kab aayega? That's the thing. So yeah, aapka number bhi aayega. Your number will come, and what we will do after this round, we will get into question answer where we will permit you to ask the questions. So please take note of the questions with you, and we'll have full 15 minutes for that purpose. And my request to the panelists would be to be concise in their answers so that we can finish it within 1.5 hours. So that means 1:15. So that's my request. So this next theme that we are discussing is about the collaboration. Because we have startups here, we have researchers here, and we know collaboration is the key. For any success, we can't do anything on our own. We have to collaborate. So my question, I will start with Thomas here. Thomas, because you have a very interesting business model, which you also said, you are helping the people to set up their businesses, and you are providing them the capacity. And we know the collaboration has to be a win-win thing. Then only the collaboration is successful. You have done it in India, you have done it in Iran. My question to you is, what are the tricks of the trade in order to establish successful collaboration, as per your experience so far in the industry?
That's not a simple question.
It's not simple.
Because it starts with what means collaboration, where it starts, where it goes to, and where it ends. And you can collaborate between different market players. But for example, renting camera from company A to company B, or supplying an aircraft from company A to company B or C. But you can also cooperate on different projects, on working together, just to achieve a better price level, but also to be more efficient. But you can also cooperate on a much higher level. For example, in Europe we have, or actually everywhere, we have one big challenge that every company is playing its own role, more or less competing to each other, but they all cope with the same challenges: weather, ATC, and sometimes specifications. And in Europe, what happened now is, or actually some years ago already, an association has formed up. It's called EASI, or EC it's pronounced. And they try to make more lobbyism for their industry. Because if you take the example of data acquisition by an aircraft, so flying, you need to know we are always the last in the chain. We need to fly at the perfect weather, and there's often zero tolerance from the customers. And we can only fly if the airspace is free. They will not stop any cargo or Pax aircrafts. Even skydivers has higher priority. So what you need to do is you need to get more weight at ATC. So for this, you need to form up, create a lobby, make them understand, make people understand that geospatial data are part of everything, especially now when we have smartphones and other applications. It all works with geospatial data. So this is a high level of cooperation. Another example for this high level cooperation is standardization. What means orthophoto? What's included? What's the basic specification? And if you achieve an agreement on that level, you will see the competition process will take a much different direction. Things will become easier. So that's why I'm saying it's not so easy to say what means cooperation. Another example is each part of the industry, UAV, data analytics, data acquisition, different type of products, they all more or less are in their own nutshell, without knowing from each other and without understanding that often they can benefit from each other. Recently I've seen so many satellite applications, and I was thinking it would be bloody awesome to feed also aerial data into it, because often you're much more flexible with getting those data instead of satellite data. I think it's cheaper, but I'm not sure, to be honest, and it's just a big advantage also when it comes to resolutions. So I would say the general answer would be more open-minded for potential corporations. That's the first most important step.
Yeah, thank you. And my next question is to Varadarajan. And so, yeah, Varad, because you are with TIS Tirupati, and you are doing MOUs with different organizations already, and you're collaborating with them. So what is happening in TIS in terms of the collaboration with different organizations? Can you give some insight into that? And what kind of collaborations you are looking forward to?
Sure, thank you. As I mentioned to you, there is a stage, right, the startups, or let us say the researchers are, it's a very risky stage, where, their work goes on, let's say, to develop a kind of MVP. So many things can go wrong during that stage. And like I said, similar research is happening elsewhere in the world in the same area. And so somebody were to come out with that finding a little faster, they'll be the first to get to the market. And so what we have done is we are, first of all, getting these organizations that are going to add value to us. So simple example I'll tell you is, there's a company called National Geosystems, which you may be very well aware. They make the first ever Navic chipsets. It is designed in India, and it meets all the requirements of the defense department as well as the industry, not only in India but worldwide. So this is one example. We sign MOUs with companies that are working in the adjacencies, so they can add value to this center. And I mentioned to you that we have the Center for Excellence for NAVIC. So obviously, we have to bring the whole ecosystem. So we have companies like these which are going to add value. Second is that there's research that is happening, within the TIH or the IIT-Tirupati, as well as in other institutions like IIT Bombay or IIT Kanpur. We are even funding such research. So we get involved in that, and the faculty as well as the team that is part of the TIH gets involved in giving their inputs, their knowledge, maybe the mentorship, and so on. And then we also have investors, because once you have the idea that has come up from, say, idea stage to prototype to MVP, then we are looking at POC, So that stage, we can open it to angel investors. So we have some partnership with the angel investors. And thereafter, it goes into the next level where it becomes interesting for the industry. And then I'll just give an example of one hackathon we did on agriculture in Jan of last year. So this particular hackathon was fully focused with agriculture as the application, but you had to use PNT or GNSS or LBS. And we had about 150 applications from the country, across the country. And from that, about 30 were selected to participate in the hackathon. And then finally, we selected 7 winners. Each of them got cash prizes. And three companies, three industry, companies that are working in this area, they began to mentor, coach them, and then take to the market. Also, I had mentioned to you that the biggest challenge for the big companies is that which is the right R&D approach they need to take. Many times, that global statistics is that 80% of R&D projects are failures. Only 20% succeed. So the large companies, instead of funding in, let's say, in R&D projects, which they are not certain what can happen, they actually can look at, throwing into a hackathon or, some program like that and select certain winners and see whether that's the R&D project that they're trying to do is feasible, technically feasible, and then make the investment into R&D. So this simple approach, I'm just saying, is how we built the 100 open startups, and we made it a huge success.
Right. I will just continue with this question to Divya, and because Divya's company is working in a very interesting business model where you are using the technology, at the same time you have to interact with the farmer at the plot level. You are working in that scale. And so in that process, there will be NGOs, FPOs, and so many other levels. So for you to work with these people, in my understanding, is important. How do you realize that? And please be quick in answer.
The way we've been operating is mostly B2B. So we have realized that we cannot reach out to each farmer and be very specific about their areas advisory and all. So the biggest impact we can make is join hands with banks, lending, or even like we have collaboration with TransUnion Sibyl. So we have sort of joined hands with the right organization who already have a scale of things. And however, the problem still lies that we still need to prove that it is actually moving the needle in the right direction. So there we work with the banks very closely in understanding, okay, if we marked some farmers at a high risk when they are borrowing the money, is it actually proven from the data?
Okay.
So that takes a good amount of debugging and RCAs.
Right. Shubham, my question to you is because you have this satellite with 2 sensors and you are in the process of developing algorithms and your emphasis is on generating the best possible image. That is what you are doing right now. So in this and in the future, because you will be generating a lot of data, and are you working on collaborations with the academic institutions, research organizations, researchers, in order to engage them in this process?
We already have a panel of experts under which we have NDAs with different academic institutions, and very specific academic institutes are there to whom we are disbursing our data for their expert advice. So definitely, it's a kind of user feedback for us. In the future also, we'll be having a look at getting more and more academic institutions to involve with us.
Okay. All right, I think I will jump to the another questions to Professor Rajagopalan. And this question is more on the policy side. Because in India, we have seen recently very good policy developments. NGP 2022 is there, remote sensing policy, drone policy, all of these are there. Do you think that this is the right ecosystem in terms of the policy, or more needs to be done?
More needs to be done. Why I am saying that is that policy is just a start. How do you realize the policy?
Absolutely.
And for realizing a policy, you need an active collaboration with all the stakeholders. One of the areas where India has been persistently weak is driving standards internationally. And we lose out on that tremendously despite all the advances we make, because finally we'll have to follow some standards set up by ITU somewhere or IEEE somewhere or ISO somewhere. We don't influence those standards. And that's a pretty high cost to the industry to be able to follow those standards. So what happens with policy is, you take NGP, it came in 22. It's now 2 years.
Yep.
How much of that NGP has been realized? You do an audit of that.
Yeah.
And how many firms have come up because of NGP. So the question is, translating policy into action requires a champion to do that and requires somebody to bring together all the stakeholders. Conversations with startups, conversation with established companies, conversation with legal fraternity, because there are legal challenges to do that. Like for example, you want to promote drone in the country, but a district magistrate has the power to ban flying of drone at drop of a hat. You must have scheduled flying of drone on something, and suddenly the district magistrate say, because of the VIP movement, I am banning flying of drone in this radius for the next 3 days. So all your plans goes for a naught. So I am saying that we may have to have an empowered multi-stakeholder organization who can actually go into the nuts and bolts and design.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because there are three aspects of the policy. Number one, the policy framework should be in place. Number two is awareness of that policy framework. People should be aware of it. Third is the implementation, which was talking about. And actually, I thought that once he was talking about the NGB 2022, I thought that I will do a quick poll in this room, because we have around some 40 people in this room, and out of those who are in India, can you help me to understand how many of you have heard of National Geospatial Policy 2022? If you have heard of it, please raise your hand. Yeah, so I guess some 50%, and that too, the geospatial scientists, they know about the policy. So that's a very strong statement on what Professor Rajagopalan you said, that just making the policy is not good enough. Rather, taking the policy to the people is very important, and that needs to be done. Another related thing, Dr. Srikanth, because we have now this Digital Personal Data Protection Act in India now, very recent, and how that is going to impact in specific your research and in general the geospatial research. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's going to it's going to have a huge impact. People are already, I think, beginning to realize that this is a whole different world now. I think we'll go through a transition, something like what Europe did on GDPR from 2016 to 2020. While there has been a lot of protection to health data from a confidentiality standpoint, I mean, typically the medical ethics covers a lot of these things, but the nuances of the DPDP, which include things like how you will share, how long you will keep it, retention, purpose limitation, all that I think is not understood. A lot of startups are re-examining how they do things, especially, and of course the large companies have to do it. Very soon the DPDP Act compliance will start kicking in once the rules are there. I think there's going to be a lot of work to do for pretty much any company that deals with personal data to redo. Now health data obviously is much more sensitive. The area we work in is mental health, which from a perception standpoint is even more serious health data. So we are looking at everything, and we're trying to build privacy awareness into every system we do and advise doctors and hospitals on how to manage the data. Geospatial data is going to make it even more complicated because it's potentially even more personally identifiable, because now you have locational privacy also getting violated if not handled carefully. So, and some of the techniques that are going to be done, like anonymization stuff, have become a little more trickier when you try to do it on geospatial data, because you don't want to lose certain information. A lot of the data, fortunately or unfortunately, that is used here is typically on administrative boundaries, so aggregation and stuff become easy, but then they become often meaningless for the data that you're trying to analyze.
Right.
So if you're trying to actually preserve the locational information at the same time guarantee privacy, it adds to the complexity. So long answer again, I think these are all very
No, I think that
problems.
there's a lot to be done yet.
Lot to be done.
Lot to be done. Divya, my question to you is, Satsure, before this NGP 2022 and now after NGP 2022, have you seen any change in the way that you work? Did you see this policy is helping the company?
Yeah, indeed. I think this liberalization and the democratization of the data, which is coming along with this policy, will allow us to be a bit more self-sufficient. So far, we've been at the mercy of ESA's data a lot, the moment the satellite goes down of the space, our business continuity has impacted, right? So I think we are quite excited about this new initiative. We have started looking at the data, we started absorbing it. So this is going to be one of the accelerator, as if I were to say, in our data product development. But in addition, I think we will have to get there with, Galaxeye is also launching, we are also launching. We need to be self-reliant in the hardware side as well. And as I think Professor also mentioned that, I think more than that, it is also the data standardization. As soon as we have like all these, data collection platforms, the data start gonna come in, but then if your data is not standardized, then you'll be spending a lot of time consuming it. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Making the data open doesn't solve all the problem. Making it more standardized to be consumable actually enables and accelerates a lot of development.
Yeah, I think something very interesting which is happening in India is ISRO is moving out of Earth observation. Slowly it is getting into the space observation. And accordingly, there are policies now. And space is open. The rocket manufacturing, launching is going to be open. Satellite manufacturing is going to be open. And I think Galaxeye is one of the beneficiary of this new regime. So, Shubham, what do you think? Is this enough or more needs to be done on the policy framework?
So specifically, you are talking about the space policy, or
Space policy, satellite manufacturing, satellite launching.
definitely it's really a great initiative, because I myself, coming from the research background, when I see after down the line, when I started my career way back in 2016 to 2023 now. So I see a lot of things getting open. Now the private sector is getting what it actually really wanted. So now we are getting our inclusive, basically it's more inclusive. Like I say, in terms of National Geospatial Policy, policy is very good. They have made the data greater than 5-meter resolution open to everyone. If I talk in terms of EOS 4, so MRS and CRS data will be available to everyone. No, it's out to public, we can do anything. So if I talk way back in 2016, I was working with the oil spills on the MRS data. So it's very valuable. I see a lot of contributions coming from the public, and definitely the private sector is really interested. If we talk of the space as well, now that's one step ahead for us. So when we have come to EO, Earth observation, next step we'll definitely take towards space observation, because ISRO definitely is providing as a benchmark for us. No, they are anyways the leaders. So who are the guiding light for us? So definitely, it's really a great initiative, I'll say.
Yeah, I think a lot needs to be done, of course, in the policy domain, but at the same time, the new regime is helping the companies. And I know it about my company, Geono, where earlier we used to wait 8 to 9 months before we can fly, just for the permission. But today, I can fly within 15 days easily. So it has made a lot of changes. So now the floor is open for the questions, and I'm sure that there are many questions here. So please raise your hand. The first I say, yes, please.
Great panel discussion. I have question like, I am a final year PhD student. So when we have our work, we have two confusions coming to the startup sector. That is our work at this stage very appropriate for like giving it to the industry? And so we need a little bit of guidance or counseling in that. Is there any platform for that? And second is like, how can we convert our work to product? Because we don't know what the industry demands. Academia and industry, that's the lack that we don't know, and we want some guidance and counseling relating
Yeah,
to it.
Varadarajan, can you take it? Quick.
I mentioned to you about the 25 TH, right? You have to do a research about what specific area you're working on, and just write to them, and then they will be able to take you in, and then help you further. It's all about validation, right? You need some validation.
Yes,
about
we need some validation, before we pitch. So you're saying like pitch, and then validation will come to you.
Right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
Yeah, this is always catch 22. Yeah, next please. Is there any other question from the audience?
PhD candidate at IIT Kanpur. Most of us here are PhD candidates, and some of them think that their research outcomes have a potential of some kind of commercial setups. So how TIH can help specifically in this regard? And my next question is that how much do you think that is it feasible for someone who is just completing his PhD to delve into this commercial thing, or they should work for some corporate and have some experience and then they should go into this thing?
Okay, thank you very much. So it's not required. You don't need any experience. I just want to mention to you, we have fellowships that actually gives you for 3 years about 80,000 rupees a month. So you could, I do not know which area you're working on, but if it's related to our TIH, you can apply and we can help you there.
Yeah, and there is no right time. Subh muhurt aayega tab karenge. There's nothing like that. Okay. Yeah. Next question, please. Yeah, Gurudutta.
My question is to both the satellite building companies on the panel. How has your capacity building efforts been? Have you been able to get a resource who is well versed in Earth observation and same time having a good hold on niche domains like AIML? And what do you suggest going forward? What should academia do to provide such resources?
Hi, Gurudatta. I think you have pinched the wrong nerve. So you're on point. You're on point. I think at this juncture where we are, there is a lack of talent density when it comes to merging multidisciplinary, as I said before, right? However, the good news is there's a lot of in-depth knowledge for certain pillars. So I think where I'm coming from, I'm seeing there's going to be a lot of on-job learning. But as long as we get more in-depth people for 1 or 2 domains, then the cross-disciplinary happen later. I am open for suggestion, to be honest, because I had this challenge myself building this team. So would love to hear thoughts. But I think in addition, what we have started doing is working in collaboration with universities, working closely with PhD students with a very, very specific problem statement, either in the internship format or collaboration format. That has actually given us some win-win. But it is a slow process. This is where we want to accelerate together. So yeah, would love to hear if somebody has suggestions as well.
Yeah, next question, please. Please.
I'd like to make a point. Sorry. So basically, I visualize it as a big gap between industry and academia. Where it falls, I'll tell you. The guy who knows remote sensing doesn't know programming. The guy who knows programming doesn't know remote sensing. And industry, half of the time, is trying to make them gel. So that's a very big problem. What I feel, people are knowing good level of ArcGIS and all this stuff, but they don't know how to ideate from scratch. So when we deal with the images, we deal with the remote sensing imagery and different data sets, we need people who can employ these algorithms at a lower level. So the problem is, I think there is something lagging in the practical part of the academia, which is not able to bridge this. So the training time for us increases exponentially. So now when I have to select between 2 guys, the one who is from remote sensing and from the programming, what I have felt is that the person from the programming has a lesser training time as compared to the one who has an experience over EO. So that's a very big gap that needs to be bridged. And I think more and more industry inclusion in the academia will help you, tune your programs according to that.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. And before coming to your question, I'm very optimistic, and I see a very remarkable change which is happening in Indian academia now, and particularly after this TIH and government's emphasis on doing the translational research. Because when I used to go to the DST meetings and others, earlier the researcher will always say, okay, I will publish 2 papers, I will write the report, and only that. They will not talk beyond that. But now the researchers are coming with a business model. they are coming with the TRLs. They understand the TRL. And they talk about, okay, in my research, I will take it to this TRL. They are talking of the patents. They are always trying to collaborate with the industry. So I think at the national level, the way the government is pumping money and pushing the TIH in order to do that, the mindset of the researcher is changing. And with the time, I believe this gap will further close down. Yeah, Varadarajan.
I just wanted to add to what you just, thanks for that. It is by far the most successful mission of the government of India, the DST. 3,600 crores has been set aside. In the last 3 years, 500 startups have come out, deep tech startups. And as I mentioned to you, this mission on science and technology, this is the biggest one, and the most successful one. And you know, it's not yet done. We still continue to put more effort. The idea is to create more such innovations that are, you know, PhD level, and we want to commercialize and bring success. And in the hope that, you know, some of them become global.
Good. Yeah, your question, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for such an interesting panel discussion. My name is Sahajpal Singh. I am a PhD student at CSRE IIT Bombay. So my question was that, as Professor Shubham mentioned, that private sector especially is gearing up for space exploration, manufacture of satellites, and their launching. So do you have any good idea, like in how many years will that be going to happen? Like by the next year, EO satellites will be launching by Satsure, Pixel, and other space companies. So what motivates private companies to go for space exploration and planetary exploration?
Yes, Shubham.
Yeah, so you talked about space exploration. I'll say that first step is towards EO. A lot more needs to be explored on the EO domain. From the space exploration point of view, I can think of one thing, that is space debris. So a lot of space debris is going to be created, a lot of constellation going into the space, and the space management is becoming a vital field right now. So what I want to say is that, yeah, definitely, in terms of space exploration, maybe next decade or so, but yeah, I can see within the near 5 years, it totally depends for the Earth observation only. Because a lot more needs to be explored from the Earth side. If you only talk of SAR only, SAR still is an enigma. Lot of research going on to SAR. With the you must have attended the ESA's session in which a lot of missions coming up in the SAR side. So definitely, I mean, space is something, but I think it's the next step ahead. First is EO. Yeah.
Okay, one last question now. Yeah, please.
I think you have asked the question to the wrong person, because I have not been monitoring what government is doing in the last couple of years, but let me hazard a guess. The thing is that the geospatial technology is driven by only two ministries in the government of India. One is Ministry of Science and Technology, who are more worried about the data, National Spatial Data Infrastructure and all. Other is Ministry of Space through ISRO, etc. All of them have program to encourage academic collaboration. Respond is there with the Ministry of Space. DST has SERB and many. But all of them focus on sponsoring either technology development projects or research projects, research domain, all of them. We have been battling with the DST, saying that, in fact, even the most recent, my report on the NSDI and what NSDI can do in the next 5 years to see is not so much, in addition to whatever you are doing on the research part of the whole thing, support educational institution, whether government or private, doesn't really matter, to get some of these latest advances into the curriculum. Because otherwise, I have been seeing that Visvesvaraya Technology University here is running an MTech program in geospatial technologies. Dehradun is running some MTech program. IIT Bombay has an MTech program in geospatial. And IIT Tirupati is doing. But the thing is that the way, if you now take, let's take even the rudimentary AI 101. How many colleges are offering AI 101? There may be about 7,000 colleges in the country which are offering AI 101 as a kind of elective or whatever it is in the country. Why is it we don't have Geospatial 101 being offered in even 1,000 colleges? I think there must be some drive, and we had put in saying that in addition to encouraging research, you must get the curriculum into the curriculum. There must be some minimum requirement that when location become very important and location-based services are very important, there must be some provision that in any college, whether it is science or arts or any college, there must be some elective at least to start with on geospatial, which anybody can take, and then moving towards degree and postgraduate degree, and government should do that. The problem is the Ministry of Education and UGC, IICT, they don't work on domains. They have only rules and regulations saying, if you come with a syllabus, we will approve, but not work on that. So hopefully if that report gets implemented, something will happen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So I think because now the lunch is waiting, we will not continue. I think there are many questions, and you can ask the panelists because they will be available during the lunchtime also. And I take this opportunity now to thank my co-panelists for very engaging discussion and very pertinent answers to the questions. I hope that this panel discussion could be useful, could stir some thoughts in you, could give you some information, and basically the purpose with which we started. I hope we are successful in that. So with this word, I will hand over the mic to Professor Jaya because he has something more on that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Professor Bharat and the panel. This has been a very great discussion. So I would like to set the context for this panel discussion. This is the panel of representing the sponsors that we have for the conference, and we would now like to take this opportunity to formally thank the sponsors without whose help this conference wouldn't have run, this far, right? So I would like to now thank MINRO, Machine Intelligence and Robotics Center. So that's MINRO. We have Satsure. And we have Emphasis F1 Foundation. We have the Cognitive Computing Lab at IIIT Bangalore for that, and the Department of Science and Technology. So a big hand of applause for them. Yeah, we have a silver sponsor, that is ISRO, and a double bronze sponsor is NRSC. So a hand of applause for them as well. Thank you so much. And we finally have our bronze sponsors, that is HALG, Galaxeye, and IIT Tirupati Navavishkar Foundation. Thank you so much. So yeah, again, as Professor Bharat has mentioned, the panelists are available. You can take questions offline. I'm sorry to cut you short, but the lunch is waiting. So I will take a moment to thank the panelists and present them with a memento. So I'll give it to the sponsorship chair.
Thank you all for a very engaging and engrossing session. Yeah, so it's time to acknowledge our panelists. First of all, Mr. Shubham Sharma, who is head of data at Galaxeye. Ms. Divya Sharma, who is VP of Data Analytics at Satsure Analytics. Mr. Thomas Risch, who's head of Global Assistant and Logistic Group, Germany. Professor S. Rajagopalan from MINRO. Mr. Varadarajan Krishna, Senior Advisor for Innovation at IIT Tirupati. And Professor TK Srikanth from Emphasis Cognitive Computing Center for Excellence. And last but not the least, for agreeing on our invitation to come down to Bangalore exclusively for this event and moderating the event and inspiring all of us, Professor Bharat Lohani from IIT Kanpur. Thank you all. Now we can break for lunch. Lunch is being served in the basement.